Hello, welcome to Miller's Musings. My name is Simon Miller, and this is a weekly vlog series talking about the likes of mental health, anxiety, depression, all those kind of things that we all deal with on a day-to-day basis, and I like to talk about them because I think it's important to talk about them. Now, we're going to do a very specific thing today, and specific to me, because I was listening to a radio station the other day. I'm not going to talk about which one it was, and I've got something in my mouth, good. And a very interesting topic came up, or at least an interesting sentence. And I instantly thought to myself, I want to talk about that on Miller's Musings. And that's what I'm doing right now. Now, this is obviously very specific to a masculine or a man audience. I am a man, if you don't know. So I guess sometimes these things, I'm not going to say ring out more to me than other people, but maybe it just triggered something in my brain because of my gender. But they were talking about a specific sport. And they were talking about how somebody got injured and how they didn't want to come off the field of play. And when they had to, and they realized it was going to affect their career, they didn't want to show any emotion because, and I quote, they were a man. That's what they said. They said they're a man and they manned up, all those kind of phrases like, you know what I'm talking about. I didn't get into more specific like that. But the point was, because he was a man and because he was tough, he didn't cry and he didn't care. And I didn't take offense to it. There's very few things I take offense to. For example, I love South Park. I like being offended. However, I think that's a really, I'm going to go with ugly phrase. And I think it's a venomous phrase. And I think it's a bad phrase. And I think it's a phrase that does nobody any good if they're in a difficult place in their life. For example, if you are a man or a male watching this, and maybe right now you're struggling with depression, anxiety, maybe you're just a bit sad, and then you hear that there's this, this idea or this ideology that because you're a man, you have to man up and not show emotion and not cry and almost not let yourself be sad. I think that's absolute bonkers. I think that's absolutely ridiculous, and I think it's unhealthy. And in a way, I think it's dangerous, depending on what your current mental state may be. And I do think that, I know we've talked about this somewhat on another episode about sort of mental health awareness with men, because there is a stigma that men shouldn't talk about that stuff because it makes them weak. That obviously goes for females as too, but if you look at the stats, they do say that women are more open to talking about their feelings and things like that, just because that's chemical makeup and things like that. Or if anything, because women are stronger than men in that regard, because, and this is my point that I want to get to, crying or showing emotion or being upset about something and understanding that and realizing it, letting it process and realizing that, being tough doesn't mean hiding away or, not or sort of pushing people away or not showing that you actually have feelings. That's not being tough. That's not being strong. Being strong is admitting that you have a problem, that you do need help, that you are willing to reach out for people, and that, yes, maybe your body wants to shed some tears. And it just bothered me because I thought, I'm not trying to label anybody with anything, but I just had this idea of, and maybe it comes from my own times during my own sort of low points. If I heard all of that and then felt, well, I'm not doing that. I'm not living up to this, fake picture of what a man should be. What's wrong with me? Maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I can't handle this. Because the point is, as I've said all this time, everybody struggles. Everybody. It doesn't matter how happy they are, how successful they are, how wealthy they are. Everybody is struggling. And we all go through ups and downs. I always say that, but it's true. We all go through ups and downs. And when we're down, and then there's a stereotype being, perpetrated, I think that can knock some people. And I think it's grossly unfair for anybody to have this, this idea, this design of a man walking around being all gruff, drinking beer, smashing. Fuck off. I don't swear on these videos a lot because I don't think it ties into the thing, but that's nonsense and it's not fair. And I do think that can probably, it depends what you like, right? If you're passionate about certain stuff, let's say you're well into sewing, you love sewing, sewing is passion, but you're a man. It's the same kind of thing, right? If a quote unquote manly man says you shouldn't like sewing, you're a man. No, absolute nonsense. That's what your passion is, and that's what you love, and that's what feels, as we always say, the hole in your stomach that makes you feel better. You should sew, and you should sew as much as you can. But it does tie into that. We still have these hang-ups, and there's still this stigma that, if you have a penis, that you're not allowed to be that way, and I hate it. It just bothered me. It really irked me because I just think it's a terrible message to send, especially if you're part of maybe a younger generation. You're trying to come to terms with your feelings, or maybe this is the first time you're experiencing a low point in your life, and you don't know what to do. That's hard enough in itself. Trying to figure out, okay, why has this happened? How do I get out of this? Am I alone? And of course, you're not. But then to push this constant fable that a man, I just hate it. I just think it's nonsense. Like, at the end of the day, men, women, children, I mean, not children, because obviously they're still developing as humans, but we're human beings. And I think I can't stand this. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't look at genders and try and make sure there's balance and fairness. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying when it comes to the mental side of it, the brain is the brain. And obviously different chemicals are going to be sprouted out and different hormones depending on what your gender is. But that doesn't protect us or make us safe from the difficulties of life. And it's only going to become more difficult if this ridiculous and outdated concept of, a man being almost untouchable to the world, because it's just not true. It's just not true. And don't get me wrong, if you are that person and that's how you're built and you don't feel like you need to talk to anybody and you do have a tough edge, that's excellent. That's awesome. That works for you and that's how you get through the day, and that's the point. How do you get through a day? But I don't like this blanket, like I said, this blanket idea that there's only a one be all and end all. I think it's dangerous. I really do, especially to maybe somebody who is down on their luck and maybe doesn't know who they are inside. They're still finding their way, still trying to figure out who they are as a person. And then, that could have a detrimental effect on them where they're like, well, I don't act in that way. I'm a man. Is there something wrong with me? And then that's going to, it's going to build up. It's going to build up. And I guess it goes, it goes for women as well. I don't, that sounds bad, but because I'm not a woman, I don't want to speak on that behalf, because I obviously have a much better, just because of my gender, I have a much better than the other one. But I'm sure if you're more of a quote unquote masculine woman and people think, oh, you shouldn't act like that. It's like, no, I act however I want to ensure that I'm true to myself and I feel confident and I have, I have certain values that I want to live up to. But yeah, it just triggered something in me. So I thought, I have this, this vlog that I do on a small platform that I like to shout about. So that's, that's what I'm going to talk about this week. So please don't buy into that. Please, if you're a sensitive, I'll be honest with you, I can be very, very sensitive about certain things. Like, I'm a bit of a heart on my sleeve kind of a guy. So, while I have a thick skin, which I think you have to be if you're going to be on the internet, but while I do, certain things will get to me and they will affect me and I'll be hurt by them. I don't like being hurt, and there's other problems and issues that come along with that, but I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed of being a sensitive guy. That's just in my chemical makeup. And if you're the same, that's fine. That's cool. And I get it, perception is reality, and maybe some people see a bald dude that goes to the gym and they think, oh, no. Not at all. Never been that way. Never want to be that way. Nothing wrong with you if you are that way. But it's not. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing. And like I said, I heard somebody say that, and I was just like, that's not true. I can't believe we're still saying it in 2018. That's when I think it is even more important that we have those conversations, because while mental health is far more real, I guess, or far better. It's more in the public eye than it ever has been, thanks to social media to a great extent, and a lot of sort of celebrities and famous people, trying to make everybody aware of that. I still think we can do more. I'm not saying this is going to change anything. Of course it's not. But I would still rather be a small part of the wheel than not be part of the wheel at all. But it was interesting though, especially as I do these videos and I heard that and I felt it instantly. And I was like, I don't like that. That's just what I kept thinking. I don't like that. He was a man. He manned up. Manning up. What does man up mean? You just deal with stuff however you want to deal with stuff. Emotions are crazy. Emotions are hard. Life is hard. Life is difficult. If you want to cry, just cry. Why do you think we have tears? Why do you think that's even... I know that there's social connotations to it, but away from that, why do you think we have tears and are we able to cry to begin with? Because that's how our body responds to things. And the more you fight that stuff and hold it back, the harder things can get. I think when you're down on your luck and you're just trying to find your way back to an even plateau, you just got to go with your body. You just got to live in the moment. And if you've got to cry out, cry. We've all heard that phrase, cry out, cry out. Things are sad. Like if someone passes away, it's sad. If you break up with your girlfriend or boyfriend, it's sad. If you lose your job, it's sad. If you fall out with a friend, it's sad. Like sadness, I know it has a negative, connotation around it, but it's an emotion. And it's as important as happiness. It's like adrenaline or, the anxiety, that kind of flight or fright stuff. No, fight or flight, I should say, fright. That's why you get out of the way of cars. So it's important, but it's just making sure that it's in the right context. Obviously, sometimes we lose sight of that. Anyway, I just wanted to touch on it. It came up, and like I say, just like a bulb in my head. I was like, no. I don't like that. But anyway, that's Miller's Musings for this week. Please do go check out the other videos. There'll be a link in the description for the playlist. You can watch them all. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Maybe share this with a friend if you think it's going to help. And if there's any sort of topics and stuff you feel like you'd want me to broach upon, I can do that. And it can be anything. I don't know where we're going to go next. I didn't know what we were going to do this week. Like I say, I heard that on the radio, and it just sparked me into life, really. Sparked me into life. But as always, you take care of yourself, and I'll chat to you next week.